Happy Halloween. What was the spookiest thing you saw this month? Demons, animatronic bears, or Robert De Niro? Let's talk about it. What's up, Freak fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking the best and worst movies from October. Now, I feel like I saw less this month than usual. Again, I'm going through some health stuff, and I'm still going through some health stuff. It hasn't stopped, but we're going to keep going because that's what we do.
You can do it!
Let's start with Totally Killer, a new movie on Amazon Prime. It kind of feels like Happy Death Day did with a Back to the Future twist, and Kiernan Shipka is our lead. I really like Kiernan Shipka. She's great in this film. Brings everything to this role that you need. You have the Sweet 16 killer who last killed 35 years ago. Her mom's running around scared, and sure enough, it happens again. But our main character suddenly, unexpectedly, crazily travels back to 1987 before they even start killing in the first place, trying to stop the craziness from happening, and of course encounters a lot of wacky characters and young versions of the people that she knows in the future. I love the concept. The execution was really good. Now, they do kind of spell out certain things when it comes to the ending, and that ending twist, was not very shocking. So it didn't quite nail everything it needed to be a great movie, but I thought it was a good time. I enjoyed myself. I'm going good tier. All right, let's stay with Amazon Prime. Let's stay with the movies that I didn't review. Austin, what are you doing? I'm sorry. This is Jamie Foxx. This is Tommy Lee Jones, a movie that I was actually really looking forward to. I talked about it weeks ago on one of my Oscar videos. It's not an Oscar contender. It's definitely a crowd pleaser, which can sometimes be an Oscar contender, but the story is fairly basic. That being said, a lot of charm here. Tommy Lee Jones, normally he's like a curmudgeon-y old man. You got a little bit of that in this movie, but he actually plays a pretty charming character. And Jamie Foxx, he plays this lawyer that's going to come in and help Tommy Lee Jones, his family business, his funeral business. It sounds simple, it is kind of simple, but within saving this business, there is uncovering a lot of injustices. We're talking from a racial perspective, some things happening in this community, and Mamadou Athie comes in and plays a great young character, kind of the opposite of who Alan Ruck is playing here, the younger guy, but he knows what he's talking about, and really that trio makes for a compelling experience. It's all about the script, it's all about the dialogue. That is good. The overall story, like I said, predictable, and you kind of know where it's going to go. It hits those same emotional beats, but it is, in its own way, a really nice experience. So yet another October movie. Come on, what are we doing? On the good tier. Why is it doing that? What's going on? What's happening? Okay, well, it's going to be an extra large good tier. Delicious. All right, Pain Hustlers. We just talked about it on the channel. I won't say too much more other than Emily Blunt, Chris Evans. I expect a good movie. I expect a good experience. And I do think the experience is better than the film itself. This is one of those movies that takes that Wolf of Wall Street formula and applies it to a concept that's similar to something like Dope Sick that came out on Hulu a little bit ago, and that was handled a lot better than this. I feel like if this was a limited series, we would have got more time with certain characters like Chris Evans' character, who is there, and Evans is good, but his character is not very well fleshed out at all. Emily Blunt plays Liza. I love her relationship with her daughter, how she starts with basically nothing and rises through the ranks, becomes this very successful liar.
I ain't calling you a truther.
And after an hour and 45 minutes of build-up, the corruption is uncovered in a 10-minute highlight video. There are just ways they could have handled this better with more focus. I'm going to go the meh tier. How about Fair Play? Phoebe Dynevor, Alden Ehrenreich play two very interesting lead characters, and they're going up against each other in this movie basically all throughout it, trying to rise through the ranks of their job. What, did we just talk about one of those movies? Now, this is at a hedge fund. These two play a couple. Nobody knows that they are together, but they're basically competing against each other for this job, and it makes for a very strained relationship. I just imagine me and my wife doing this, or my wife and I, grammar. She'd be pissed because I'd win. But this is just a really compelling and well put together movie. Chloe DeMont is our director here. I believe it's a feature debut. Very nice job. Nothing outrageously amazing about the cinematography or this or that, but everything's just really good, really high quality, well put together movie that does end in a way that's not as compelling as the build-up, but it still gives you that ending that I think a lot of people will enjoy. Some will see this as, all right, it took a step too far. I get that, but at the same time, I like the risks taken in this movie, and I'm debating, Should I put it on the good tier or the great tier? This is tough. I'm going to say high good tier. High, what is wrong with this thing? Freelance. An ex-Special Forces operative takes a job to provide security for a journalist as she interviews a dictator, but a military coup breaks out in the middle of the interview. They are forced to escape into the jungle where they must survive. I was going to say something snappy like, oh, that sounds interesting, but does it? Or does it just sound really convoluted and like it's going to be the most basic and straight to the point, easy to understand, convoluted movie I've ever seen in my life? Because if it sounds like that, if that's what you think it's going to be, that's what it is. And I guess I appreciate they try to do something different at the beginning, giving us like the perspective of John Cena's character as he, says, I could have had a nice family life, but instead I went into the military and I was crazy. And everybody's like, oh man, you're so good. You were so good at what you did. We're going to bring you out of this family life that you have now that you didn't want, but now you have. And your poor wife's just like, well, hey, why do I suck?
I don't know.
Alison Brie, Christian Slater. When I saw Christian Slater show up, I'm like, oh boy, this just went from bad to incredible. And look, it's not even that John Cena is bad in this movie. I'm starting to warm up on John Cena as an actor. It's his dialogue. It's almost to the point where it's pathetic. This is some of the worst basic action hero, easy, what's another, did I say stinky? It's stinky. And at times it's trying to be a romantic comedy, but it's not really comedic. The jokes all fall flat, even with John Cena delivering some of those jokes, and he has great comedic timing. His timing is good, but everything he's saying is just so lackluster, and I forgot what the plot was while I was watching the movie. That's never happened to me before. This is, I'll just say it. It's awful. I'm putting it on the awful tier. What an awful movie. All right, The Conference on Netflix. It starts out as like this comedic horror and turns into a slasher very quickly. The buildup is very slow. You have all of these workmates. They're going on this work trip. They're trying to do whatever they're trying to do, the business aspect of it. I don't remember. But there's a lot of that in the beginning, and I didn't care as much about that, but it does give us a good opportunity to learn who some of these characters are, whether they be really likable or just slimy sleazeballs. These two characters just sitting talking about Wolf of Wall Street, how they look up to the nastiest people, but they do a great job of playing them, and so that was fine. The buildup was okay, but then you get the slasher aspect, and that was actually really fun. From the way this killer gets their mask to all of the kills and how gruesome and violent they are. If you're looking for something with maybe not the best plot, but it's just really easy to watch, The Conference may be that movie. It's on Netflix right now, and I'm going okay tier for The Conference. All right, it's The Exorcist Believer. Then I saw her face. I was not a believer. This is not a good movie. It's not a good sequel. I waited how many years? We all waited how many years for this? And they put in Ellen Burstyn for about 10 minutes. Wasted, useless. This actually could have been removed from the universe entirely and put under a different title, and I may have liked it more, because then you wouldn't have had all that useless content with Ellen Burstyn. They wouldn't have had all these shoehorned references in there. It could have just stood alone to be its own thing. I actually like the beginning of this movie. It feels like Prisoners. It feels like that buildup that you get where all of these parents are on edge. They don't know where their daughters are. Then they come back. Something's messed up. Is it a demon? Yes, it is. And at first it was compelling. But as the film goes, and the further we get into it, I'm just sitting here going, it's the same old thing. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going bad tier for Exorcist. Then we have a movie that I didn't know much about. I've seen my friends play the game. I know just a little bit about the lore there, but not all that much, right? My buddy 3C Films, you've seen the videos, right? When I was talking to him, we were in Orlando together. I'm like, man, I don't know much about this. Get me excited for it. And daggone it, Chris, you did. And I like the trailer. I like more than a few things about this film, the animatronic, the visual effects, the 5 minutes of Matthew Lillard. That was great. But that's one of the problems, is that the characters that we need to know the most about don't have a lot of screen time, and the moments that become prominent and significant at the end don't get a lot of build-up, right? We have a lot of things happening. This one subplot of all these people going in and thieving this stuff that was so useless. It wasn't useless because we got some cool killing scenes with the animatronics. That was great. But in terms of just adding in a subplot, You picked like the worst one. Josh Hutcherson does a good job. I like him as an actor. I think the acting in general was okay. It wasn't great. There were some side performances that were a little over the top. It's just the dialogue, man. Dialogue was really bad. The story unnecessarily convoluted. It could have been so simple. And when it is simple, it actually works really well. And I won't lie, I was entertained by the end, but those characters, one specifically earning that moment, I'm just like, they didn't earn it. Because, well, you know why you watched the movie. Maybe they earned it in the game, but this isn't the game. This is the movie. They got to do a good job of building that up in the film itself, and they didn't. And unfortunately, it fell flat. So I am sorry to do this. I did not want to do this. I'm putting Five Nights at Freddy's on the bad tier. I'm so sorry. Finally, Martin Scorsese just joined Letterboxd. If you guys didn't see his MCU list, go check it out. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Killers of the Flower Moon is a top 5 Scorsese film because I don't have it in my top 5. But my top 5 are all perfect films. What do you want me to do about it?
The show goes on!
So while I do have a minor issue with the pacing and the length of the movie at 3.5 hours, it didn't really feel like 3.5 hours, but it definitely didn't feel like 2. Because it's 3.5. I was compelled, emotionally captivated. This took me on the exact journey that it needed to take me on, and learning so much about the Osage and their struggles made me want to see a little more from that perspective. But while we didn't get that, we got some phenomenal performances from Leo and Robert De Niro. I mean, Oscar-worthy performances, even though I don't think they're going to win. And then Lily Gladstone, who stole the entire film. And she was top-notch, spectacular, phenomenal. The cinematography, the artistry of the film, the editing, as always, is amazing in a Scorsese film, even for the lengthy runtime. And then the score, which I described as just a very subtle heartbeat of the film, it kept me captivated. And I didn't have a huge pacing problem, even with how long. I mean, that's impressive. When you bring us a 3.5-hour film that doesn't feel all the way 3.5 hours, even though it kind of gets there at times. All in all, this was a phenomenal experience for me just to see a Scorsese film of this quality on the big screen. This is an experience. And if you haven't seen it on the big screen, not a lot of box office, so I know a lot of you haven't, it's worth it. Maybe. Was for me. I'm going awesome tier. There it is. At the bottom, it's Freelance. It always has been, always will be. Between The Exorcist and Five Nights at Freddy's, look, I know I gave The Exorcist a higher score, just barely, but thinking back on it, I mean, they're both not very good, but I had a little more fun with Five Nights, so guess what, Five Nights fans? The top of the bad tier. On the bad tier, we have Pain Hustlers, followed by The Conference on the okay tier. Here's where it is interesting. I'm going to go The Burial at the bottom. I just had a little bit more fun with a film like Totally Killer. And then the quality of what is happening. The quality of Fair Play, in my opinion, makes me want to... Can I put it on the top of the good? Will you work with me here? Okay, just imagine Pain Hustlers is higher. And then at the top, it's the easiest number 1 of the year so far in terms of these monthly tier lists. It's Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, I was supposed to see The Killer last week. I plan on seeing The Killer this week and Anatomy of the Fall. So 2 movies that will be primed for a really good, hopefully a really good November tier list. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thanks for sticking with me. I'll see you in November. Yeah.